Welcome to another episode of the Ranya Show. I'm your host, Ranya, and today we are going to talk about daily life lessons, learning something by repetition, breaking habits, breaking the cycles, but still catching yourself sometimes falling into old thought patterns, old habits, old ways of living that no longer serve you, and bringing awareness to them and how to navigate when that comes up. So, for example, I have a story to share with my niece. Recently, we we decided to go to Paris Baguette to celebrate my youngest niece's performance, and my oldest niece decided that she didn't want Paris Baguette. She wanted Mango Mango. And at first, because the plan was Paris Baguette, I got annoyed. And I was like, no, you have to buy something from Paris Baguette because that was the plan. We said we were coming here. We didn't say anything about Mango Mango. And mind you, Mango Mango was like 4 stores down. So it really wasn't that big of a deal. But because of the old habits, the old patterns of like my childhood and like hearing because I said so, and I'm in control, you're the child, I'm the adult. um, you do as I say and you do as I tell you. So i I told her, no, you either get something from Paris Baguette or you get nothing. But you're not getting Mango Mango because we agreed for us to go to Paris Baguette, and that's where we're going, that's where we're sitting, and that's that. And then she said, fine, then I don't want anything. And she sat there sulking, rightfully so. And I started to think about it, and I was just like, why is it such a big deal if we all get what we want? Like her younger sister gets Paris Baguette, she gets Mango Mango, and I get whatever I want, either or. And I started to sit with that and think about it and ask myself, like, where is this coming from? And why is it such a big deal? And I realized that it came from my childhood and being made to feel like because I'm young and I'm a child that I don't know any better. And I need to listen to what the adult says because they're my caretaker. They're the ones who are protecting me and keeping me safe. So I ended up getting Mango Mango. I ordered it for pickup and walked over with her, and I ended up getting something from Mango Mango too, and we ended up, it was a win-win. She got what she wanted, her sister got what she wanted, and I got what I wanted. And as we were driving home, and this is also something that, rarely I heard as a child, was I realized that this is basically, I just like had that conversation with her of like that the way I reacted was unnecessary and that it was coming from my own childhood stuff that I'm still working through. And I told her that I realized what happened. I realized the way I reacted, and I shouldn't have reacted that way because there was no reason why we couldn't go 4 stores down for her to get what she wants and for all of us to get what we want in the end. And her response was, so it's not my fault? And I said, no, it's not your fault. It was my fault. It was me still learning and adapting and realizing that I don't need to repeat that same cycle. I don't need to repeat the same patterns that I was taught, that I can create new ones. And sometimes, we tend to fall back into those old patterns and habits because it's something that we've been conditioned with for so many years that we were on autopilot, and it was just like, oh, but the reason why they did it is because they love me and they want what's best for me. So I should be the same way towards the people that I love and towards the people that I care about. And once I started doing the inner work, once I started asking questions, and once I started um, looking at things from a different perspective, and instead of being so inside of it, I was an outsider looking in at my own circumstances, at my own environment, at my own way of living and thinking and being. And because I did all of that work, now the realizations happen a lot quicker, you know? Before it would have just been like, well, the reason why I did that is because I know what's best for her. And this is what we planned, and we have to stick to the plan, and we can't, just change things as needed or reroute when necessary. No, this is the plan. This is what we agreed on. This is what we're sticking to. But it's not necessary to do that, You adapt. And being able to come to that conclusion and that realization, and then even like apologize to her and just admitting to her that, hey, I'm still learning. And yes, I might still make mistakes, as I like to call them, lessons. I'm learning from them daily. And the fact that I was able to acknowledge it, take accountability for it, and for her to feel seen and heard, that's something completely different, and that's still something a little foreign to me, but it's also my intention. This is what I wanted all along, to have a relationship with kids in my life that I love, like my nieces, and to be able to have those conversations and to take accountability for my actions and realize the way I'm reacting to something, and then being like, hey, why am I reacting this way? Is this how I want to react? And then adapting and changing. So for me, that worked out really well. And I was like, wow, I actually did that, instead of just, you know, letting her sulk and trying to prove a point or not admitting that I was wrong. I did. I let her feel seen and heard. I took accountability for my action in it, and we moved on. It was a win win. Everybody got what they wanted, you know? So there have been so many instances in like my life that, and you might be able to relate to some of it, where I've taken a step back and I'm like, wait, why am I coming from this emotion? Why am I labeling this conversation or this situation or whatever it is the certain way? Where is it coming from? And I sit with that and I ask why. Why is this happening? What lesson is in it for me to learn? And then I realized that it's stemming from something that happened when I was a kid. And because I was told, you know, this is not the way it should be done, I took that to heart and I took it personal. And then I found more reasons to feel that way about myself. So now every time a similar scenario happens, I automatically have a label for it. I automatically have an emotion for it. I automatically have a defense mechanism for it. And I automatically already have a response for it. even though it's not exactly the same scenario, but because it's similar to something that I took personal or something that triggered me and made me feel a certain way about myself, now I'm locked and loaded. I already know how to respond to it. I already know how to feel about it. I already know what scenarios I'm going to create out of it. And after it's said and done, I'm going to sit there and overthink and overanalyze what I should have said, what I should have did. But when you take a step back and you're just like, okay, so keeps happening. Why is it happening? And where's this coming from? And then you go back to that first initial moment where you felt that way, or where that similar scenario made you feel that way. You're just like, okay, is it really the same scenario? And if it is, why does it keep happening? What is it that I'm not seeing? What clarity do I need from it in order to adapt and change my reaction to it, the way I label it? And how can I course correct this scenario so the next time it starts to feel like it's going down the same rabbit hole, I can be like, whoop, nope, let's let's end it here and let's take it in another direction instead, and realizing that it's just a projection of who they are, has nothing to do with me, and it's not something that I need to take personal. And also, what can I say or do? So it's like basically like preparing, but instead of preparing to get defensive or take it personal, or already have it labeled as an emotion or whatever it is, I could just be like, okay, so it has nothing to do with me, so my reaction will be different, the emotion will be different, the label will be different, because it no longer has that charge and that effect that gets me defensive, but instead it's like, well, that's how they feel. Doesn't mean I have to agree with it, but it also doesn't mean that I need to hone it in and make it my own, because it's not. It has nothing to do with me. That's just their survival instinct. So, a couple more examples would be like, another scenario I had is I would have conversations with certain people in my life, and then they would get defensive, and their go to tool is to yell and to be judgmental and critical and try to tear me down so that they feel like they have control over the situation or the conversation. And before, I would get triggered and I would get defensive. And at times I would make people cry because I'm like, nope, I have to hurt them so bad that they'll learn next time not to try that with me, because it's not going to fly and they're going to see a different side of me. And now I don't bother, because honestly, it takes the same amount of energy not to care as to care, in my opinion. So now, if someone is talking to me a certain way, and I've set a boundary where I've told that person before, I don't appreciate the way you're speaking to me, or, you know, let's talk about this, but then they get defensive and whatnot, then I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to walk away from you now. And when you're ready to have a different conversation with a different tone, you can come find me. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you also need to stick to what you said. Because if you say, I'm going to walk away from you, and then you stand there and you're arguing with this person and you're trying to prove a point and you're trying to show them that they're wrong, they don't care, because they already have it in their mind that they're right. and they're going to argue with you until you give up or you get really worked up and they get a reaction out of you. And then they're like, oh, see, that's all I wanted was to get a reaction out of her. And I've won. But when you say, I'm going to walk away, and then you actually walk away, then they're just left there to speak to no one. And then it's just like, oh, she actually walked away. She said she was going to walk away and she walked away. So next time you say, hey, if you continue this way, I'm going to walk away, then it's like, well, she already walked away last time, so she'll probably walk away this time. So let me just change the way I speak to her, or just don't speak at all, you know? And there have been instances where I've had to take it a step further and block people on my social medias because they were constantly just like checking on everything I was doing and so on and so forth. And that's also another boundary, just blocking people or unfollowing people or no longer responding to their text messages or their phone calls because over and over again, you've had that conversation and they still continuing to do what they do. And it shouldn't even get to over and over again. It should be a one and done. You disrespected me. If it happens again, then that we're done, you know? But being someone who always was like taking care of other people's needs and making sure their needs were met, it was always like, oh, they were just feeling a certain way, or I would just make excuses for them. But now it's just like, yeah, but I could sit here and make a million excuses for them. It's not going to change the action, it's not going to change the behavior because it comes from within. So it needs to come from within where I'm showing myself that I'm priority, you know? So, and sometimes it means walking away, sometimes it means blocking people, sometimes it means having a certain tone with people because it's like, when you like do this thing where you're just like, you keep saying the same thing nicely and nicely and nicely, and then you just kind of like snap. So it's like that. It's like your voice and your tone, like try it as an exercise where you're saying the same sentence over and over again in a mirror. Pretend like you're talking to someone, like you recently had a conversation with someone and that person made you feel a certain way. And you so badly wanted to be like, hey, I didn't like the way you spoke to me or that comment you made about me. And then keep repeating it in front of the mirror, the same sentence of like, I don't like the way you spoke to me. And you'll notice, and maybe you can even record yourself just so you can see it for yourself or hear it for yourself. But you'll notice that all of a sudden your tone changes, your facial expression changes, your body language changes because it's like you're getting fed up of having to repeat yourself and being disregarded over and over again. So try that exercise. Let me know how it goes for you. I would love to hear about it because it's just like it's it's mirroring what happens in your daily life of like having the same conversations. And you will see a different perspective once you do it. Believe me, because I've done it. So I hope it works for you as well as it's worked for me. And another example would be like when you tell yourself you're going to do something and then you don't do it. And you're also, again, now you're showing evidence and repeating patterns of like, oh, well, I said I was going to do it. It's okay. I'll do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow turns into next week. And then next week turns into next month. And then next month turns into next year. And don't get me wrong, we all have our days. Sometimes I want to do absolutely nothing but binge watch movies, TV, whatever it is. Sometimes I don't even want to get out of bed. It's honor what your mind, body, and soul is asking of you. But also don't wallow in despair or self-pity or self-wallow. Like it's it's temporary. And it's only temporary based on how you choose to change it. So, for example, if I say tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up, first thing I'm going to have is my lemon water and my heavy metal detox smoothie. And then I wake up in the morning, I remind myself, like, okay, you committed to this, you got to get up. Because sometimes I'll be like, maybe I'll skip today and I'll just do it tomorrow. And then I'm just like, okay, but why can't you just do it now? So I'll literally have these conversations with myself in the morning. I'm like, but why can't you just do it now? You said you were going to do it, so do it. And I'll get up and I'm like, okay, all it's gonna take is just a glass of water and taking that lemon and squeezing it. Okay, now that we've squeezed the lemon into the water, and sometimes I'll like say, I guess it's kind of like affirmations where I'll whisper things into the water because it's all like it's energy based and water vibrational. So when you whisper things to it and then you're drinking in that energy. Another experiment to try. So I'll say things that I want to bring in and manifest, and then I'll drink the water. I'm like, okay, great. We had our lemon water. Now let's prep our smoothie. And I'll get the ingredients, I'll put them all in the blender, and then I'll blend it, and then I'll drink the smoothie. And I'll be like, see, we did it. Now we can go about our day, have our breakfast, drink our tea or coffee or whatever is next. But I set the intention to get those two things. I have, and now I can move on. And there have been days where I've gotten up and I'm just like, yeah, today's not the day. I just want to like stare at the ceiling. I don't want to have the lemon water. I just want to skip straight to coffee. And I've done that. But I don't let it spiral to where a year has gone by and I haven't had my lemon water and my smoothie. So sometimes it takes a couple of days to get back to it, but I always make a commitment to, because the more you make a commitment to and you see it through, the smaller the window gets for how long you go without doing the things that you said you were going to do and actually committing to them, you know? But still, sometimes you need that space, sometimes you need that time, sometimes you're not feeling well. There's so many things that come up. And that's why I say honor your body, mind, and soul, and honor what it's asking of you and what it needs in that moment and actually doing it, because if you force yourself 9 out of 10 times, you're just going to give up and a year is going to go by before you start it up again. But by honoring yourself and the things that you want, then you have, it's like, how some people do like cheat days or uh lazy Sunday before the Monday blues. There's so many different, labels to what people do, just be and relax, you know? And also do the things that light you up. The more you do those, the more you find things that light you up in your daily life, in the environment that surrounds you. And then the more you invite that in, the more you manifest it, and it gets bigger and dreamier and you get to enjoy it more. And those goals that you've had, those visions of the life that you want, will trickle into your daily life. And before you know it, you'll be at a point in your life where, like, oh my God, I wanted this like a year ago, 2 months ago. It depends on what it is. And you're like, I'm here. And down the line, like, when you're 88 years old, you'd be like, wow, everything I wanted, I got, or something better. And I got to do those things for myself. And I got to, the help of the universe and divine Allah for me. That's the God I believe in. It happened. So please take a moment, think about a memory or a current situation you were in, or a current conversation you've had where you felt like that could have gone differently. And then ask yourself, how could it have gone differently? What would you have said differently? What would you have done differently? And then the next time it comes up, pay attention and course correct it in that moment. Because if, again, you're just like, oh, that could have gone differently, I could have said something differently, then you're just back where you started. But if you actually take action and you change the way you react to it, or you change the emotion that charges it, then you could be like, okay, well, I see what I'm accountable here. I see what I might have said that might have been misunderstood or made somebody feel a certain way. What's my intention now? What can I do so this does not repeat again over and over again? And then just go from there. But, just be yourself, pay attention to yourself, because the more you pay attention to you, the more things change for you. So I hope you enjoyed listening to this as much as I did recording it. And I would love to hear your feedback and your comments about maybe something that you might have resonated with in what I said, or your own example of a moment where you wish you would have done things differently and actually did the next time it came around. So, thank you for tuning in for another episode of The Ranya Show. I'm your host, Ranya, and I hope you have a wonderful, amazing week. Until next time, bye.